Introduction. All of the operating devices, manual and visual, normally use the engine during the locomotive operation are located near the operation position. Most of these devices are located either in the control stand or on the engine control panel. Note the customer equipment requirements often differ from the one railroad to another. Therefore, physical location appearance of some devices as illustrated in the manual may not be agreed entirely to the equipment furnished to in any particular railroad. The master controls. The master control is a setup switch used to the operator to control the locomotive. The two modules of the controller are described in this manual. The mounted on the control stand is a various toggle switches, circuit breakers, indicating lights, instruments used by the other operators, independent and automatic brake valve handles. Other frequently used air brake controls are located on the control stand. The KC 108 control. The control has a reverse handle, a throttle handle, and a brake handle. The KC-108 is a General Electric designation for the model of the controller, and functional design has been approved for the AAR Committee of Locomotives Electrical Equipment, and it may be identified in blue housing around three handles. The reverse handle. The reverse handle is the bottom of the three handles used to determine the direction of the locomotive travel. If the position is reverse, off, or forward, the handle is removed only when the throttle is in idle position or brake handle is off. The throttle handle is above the reverse handle. Shut down and idle. 8 major positions or notches are the power. To shut down the position located in the right. Shut down the position is located in the right of the idle using the emergency shutdown and the all engines multiple consists of the operator and position of the control unit. To increase the motor powering, the handle is moved to the clockwise toward the operator. Braking handle, dynamic braking, and the braking is above the throttle handle of the offset position of the braking sector. The offset position nearest the operation of dynamic braking is shut off. The setup position establishes dynamic brake circuits movements beyond the position of the braking center. The counterclockwise away from the operator, increasing the braking effort. Interlocking between the handles of the master control is provided as follows. 1. The reverse handle must be inserted before the throttle handle can be moved out of the idle position. The reverse handle can be moved to forward or reverse only when the throttle handle is in an idle position or the brake handle is off position. The reverse handle cannot be moved forward or reverse position when either the throttle handle is advanced beyond idle or the brake handle is advanced beyond off. The brake handling must be off in position before the throttle handle can be moved out of idle position. The throttle handle must be in idle versus the handle of the forward reverse before the braking handle can be moved. The reverse handle can be removed when braking handle is off. The throttle handle is in idle. Operation to manipulate the controller operator handles during the locomotive operation proceeds as follows. The lead and single unit operation of the operational handset. The reverse hand remove the brake top. The handle is on and off. The throttle middle hand in idle. Caution when finding the brake handle away from the off or the throttle handle away from the idle with the reverse handle removed indicates that the interlocking between the handles requires repair and adjustment. Do not attempt to operate. Operating handle setup, leading single units, operating hand setup. 3. Insert the reverse bottom handle. 4. Set the reverse handle for desired direction. So just break the top of the handle, throttle the middle handle and idle. Insert the reverse handle, bottom handle. Set the reverse handle for the desired direction. Operating the power mode, breaking the handle remains off. Move the throttle handle to the desired notch. Operating the dynamic brake mode through the throttle handle for the return to idle. Move the brake handle from the setup pause of the several seconds of the advanced desired operational trail unit. Braking handle is in the off. The throttle handle is in the idle. Reverse handle center removed for more from emergency multiple shutdown. For emergency multiple unit shutdown. In the controlling, pull all the throttle handle and move beyond the idle into shutdown. Move it beyond idle to shutdown. Note if in a trail unit, reverse handles must be inserted to replace the throttle handle before it can be moved to shutdown. Trailing unit, reverse handle must be inserted to release the throttle handle before it can move to shutdown. Operator control that was in the trailing unit. The operational control, the control selector handle, throttle. The handle is a reverse handle. And the throttle handle, the reverse handle, and the selector handle are the optional controls. The selector handle is a ratchet type handle used to the desired mode of the operation power of the dynamic braking. The handle is spring loaded to make it self-concerning. After being released by the operator, it must actually release as many times as it takes to achieve the desired mode of operation. The mode of operation will register with the indication window to the left or of the sector of the handle. The optimal controller installed on some of the locomotives built earlier in 1972 does not have the ratchet type selector handle. Instead, a three-position selector handle is in use with the mode of operating indicating window above the handle of B dynamic braking off position power and PWR power, and the handle is moved to the full left or the full right. Movement of the handle to the right away from the operator will set the motor powering. Move to the left will set the dynamic braking. The optional control has been used. This locomotive is requested by the railroad. It may be identified with the dark red housing for three handles. Over here you see once again the operator's position control with the independent regulating automatic brake valves, horn bell sanders, generator field, and dynamic brake circuits. Two position cock, and multiple unit 2A valve, the instrument panel, controller indicator window, indicating light panel, switch panel, selector panel, handle, throttle handle, front rear headlight switches, reverse handle, and call button. Where were we at? The top of the page. Caution: make sure the proper selector handle setting has been made before advancing the throttle handle, otherwise severe equipment may be damaged, possible personal injury and could occur. The throttle handle located between the selector handle, it has the stop or the idle, the 8 major positions of the notches for motoring power, the dynamic power, or the dynamic braking for the throttle movement is notchless from idle to full position. The stop position is a short section of the throttle quadrant of the right of the idle. The position is usually used as emergency shutdown all engines of the multiple unit for the operator's position of one unit. Move the handle of the stop position, pull the spring load out about 1/4 of an inch to the clearly projecting section. Shove the handle to the right against the stop to shut down all engines not already isolated. Note the throttle position, whether the power braking will register the same indicator window as the selector handle positions. The reverse handle located below the throttle handle has the neutral forward reverse position. The handle is removable for the neutral position when the selector idle. The selector hand is in the off position. The throttle handle is in the idle. Operation controls. Operation. To manipulate the control operating handles during the locomotive operation proceed as follows. With the throttle in hand, idle selector handle to the off position, move the reverse handle to the desired direction of the operation, move the selector handle to the desired operation power of the braking. Caution: observe the indicator window to confirm the power mode of the operation has been selected. Advance throttles as required. Devices and control stands following the operation devices located in the control stand. Power light switch. The switch has two positions: normal, notch 6, normal, and notch 7. The locomotive units of the horsepower operation of the locomotive consist of the switch is ordinarily in a normal position, which the leading unit slipping excessively the power limit should be moved to notch 7 to reduce the power to the trailing unit or operating as a full power. At full power, this will reduce traction effort of the leading unit will be usually improve the ability of the locomotive to hold the rail under the rail conditions. When other locomotives with low horsepower ratings that operate and consist under the certain conditions, this switch must be moved to the number 7 position unless the locomotives are equipped with the automatic power matching. Note, unless directed otherwise, the railroad rules make sure the power limit switch is in the normal position on all units boarding the train. Other service switches: front headlight, rear headlight, step headlights, gauge lights, and dimmers. Call button. The call button is used to sound the alarm of the bell of the locomotive units. Wheel slippage. The light indicates the wheel when the wheels slip. And the pneumatic control switch open light. The light indicates that the pneumatic control switch is open and has not been reset. Page 12, generator field circuit breaker on whenever the locomotive is powered operating as the lead unit. The breaker may be also used to keep the main generator or energized when necessary to run the engine at speeds higher than idle. That's the circuit breaker when the generator field breaker is on and operating as the lead unit. The other control devices, depending on customer requirements, that controls devices of the hump control, Mars headlights, airflow. Other control devices, depending on the customer requirements, the other control devices of the hump control, Mars headlight, airflow indicator may also be located on the cooler control housing, engine control panel. The engine control panel, the EC panel, is located in the rear wall of the operator's cab. Mounted on this panel is various other switches, circuit breakers, and operating devices used during the locomotive. The engine control switch, the EC switch. Engine control switch has two positions, start and run. The engine start button is effective only when the engine control switch is in the start position. And when the engine is in the running, the engine control switch is in the start position. The engine speed is held at an idle power and cannot be applied to the locomotive. The power plant is said to be offline. The engine of the idling locomotive to be the operated engine control switch must be moved to the run position. So there's two position runs, start and run. The start button is effective only when the EC switch is in the start position. So you got to start the EC switch, and the EC switch in the start position held, and then idle power cannot be applied to the locomotive, so therefore the power plant is offline. Engine idling in the locomotive is to be operated. The engine control switch must be moved to the run position. So when you want to get it moving, you got to push it to the run position. Here is a engine control panel. Right here, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, followed by 10, 11, 12, and 12 to 14, 15 to 17, and under button 20, 21, 22, 24, and 25, and 26, the headlight setup and control switches. 23, light switches. Over here, optional equipment. You got your engine run charging circuit, running lights, headlights, control, fuel pump, optional equipment from 7 to 9, ground reset, fuel pump reset, ground relay trip, overlay, road relay trip, no battery charge, hot engine, low oil, low water, engine start, engine stop, inherent case, overpressure, engine air filter, blower fail, your light switches, and multiple unit headlight setup, switches, engine control switches, motor cutout switches, battery switches, compartment, turbo intake, manifold, air pressure, fuel, oil pressure, fuel and lube oil pressure. Back to engine controls. The engine operation controls the engine starts and stop buttons. To start the diesel, you'll press the engine start button firmly. Hold the engine start. To stop the engine, to press the stop button. The engine start button is effective only when the engine EC engine control switch is on the start position. So start button only runs when the engine control switch is in the start position, not run. And then once the locomotive is idling, you switch it to the E switch, the run. Multiple headlight setup switches, the multiple unit headlights is setup switches. The 5 position switches determine the location of the locomotive unit, consistent with the front locomotive unit leading, trailing. Such switch positions are as follows: single middle unit, the place the switch in the position, locomotive operating single and on or all units except for the leading and trailing unit. When locomotive consists is made more than one unit. Short head lead, the leading unit may place the switch in the position when the leading unit is operated with the short hood forward. The long-headed hood leads leading the place the switch in the position where the leading unit is operated and long hood forward. Short hood trail. Trailing unit, please switch to the position of the final trailing unit is connected as so its short hood trails. Long hood trails, trailing unit, place the switch in the position when the final trail locomotive is connected with the long hood trails. The multiple unit braking selector switch, the multiple unit braking dynamic switch selector switch, when installed in the front of several systems, depending on the request of the railroad. Positions the selector switch according to the directions of on the nameplate according to the railroad rules. The selector switch may be positioned before the leaving the terminal, but not changed even if the engine is isolated en route. Motor cutout switch. The motor cutout switch, if installed, can be used to cut out one or more traction motors at the same time. Power output locomotive will be reduced. The operation of the motor cut switches does not eliminate the ground fault of the power circuit. Under emergency conditions, the locomotive may operate at a short period of time. One or more motors refer to the railroads for specific details. Operation caution: the switch should be operated only when the engine control switch is in the start position to the unit isolated. Otherwise, the traction motors may be damaged. Circuit breakers on the engine control panel. The following circuit breakers are located in the engine control panel: the engine bin, the charging circuit for the isolated batteries, charging generator for the control system, running lights, headlights, control. Note that other arrangements of the breakers may be located on the control stand switch panel 6 of the fuel panel, switch of the engine control panel. The following switches are located in the engine control panel: the hood engine control compared lights, the rear classification lights, the front classification lights, the front number lights, the rear number lights, the multiple unit walkaway lights, the ground relay. The ground relay is furnished to protect the power of the control circuits, indicating the light will come on and the bell will ring when the relay has tripped. The reset the button may push to reset the relay. Note, on the same railroad, the automatic reset is used in miscellaneous controls. In addition with previously described operation devices, the following addition controls are used to the engine during the locomotive operation: the bell valve mounted on the engine control stand, the horn valve mounted on the control stand, the stand controller mounted on the control stand, the windshield wiper located on the control stand and over the fireman's position, handbrake located outside of the nose of the compartment, low nose locomotive, emergency brake valve handle, locomotive helpers and control stand. Pulling the handle causes the emergency brake application, dropping of power, or emergency fuel cutoff. If the emergency of one of the 3 electrical push buttons may be depressed momentarily to cut off the full delivery, cut off the fuel delivery should down the engine. One of these buttons is located on each of the side of the locomotive platform near the fuel tank. The third button is the engine stop, is located on the engine control panel as used to normally shut down of the engine. So your 3 spots for your emergency fuel cutoff are at the engine control panel, with the third button is stop. One of these buttons is each side of the platform near the fuel tank. 2 on each side of the fuel tank. Note that the emergency cutoff button is used to shut down the engine only. Engine on local unit only. The shutdown position of the throttle handle on the master control will shut down engines on all units of the consisting simultaneously. The fuel trip reset button. The button engine control must be depressed before depressing the engine start button. The engine start button for the engine starting after the emergency fuel cutout button has been depressed. So basically, you gotta turn the engine control panel or engine control switch to start, push it start, and then put it to run. And while you also depress the start button engine after the emergency fuel cutoff button has depressed. The cab heater is regulated and turning the regulating valve behind the control stand to give the desired heat. Adjust and lower the control of the base of the heater to suitable air deflection flow. Note, a second heater valve is located on the cab floor. Caution: to prevent the heater from breezing in cold weather, leave both valves open at all times. Windows defrosters: the heat of the windows defrost the control of the same regulation valve, but the controls cab heat. The cab ventilation is controlled by the position handle operated lever at the base of the cab heater is desired. Air brake equipment. Schedule 26L equipment for the arranged single-ended multiple unit is used to the locomotive. The 26 locomotive equipment. The principal parts of the brake. The 26C, the brake valve. The brake valve consists of 2 separate valves: the automatic brake valve, independent brake valve. The automatic valve is designed for the regulating brake pipe and pressure to control the locomotive and train brakes. So the independent valve applied to the release of the locomotive brakes independent of the train brakes. The independent valve also controls the release of the locomotive brakes due to an automatic brake application while in force without releasing the train brake. Here you see an automatic brake valve handle and regulating valve of brake stand, release, automatic handle, minimum reduction, full service, suppression, handle off, in emergency. Automatic brake valve handle. The automatic brake valve handle is a six-position release running position. The position is changes the equipment, releases the locomotive of the brakes after the automatic application. This is accomplished by the controlling airflow of the brake pipe as and set and handle the regulating valve on the back of the brakes and release the position in the extreme left of the quadrant. Normal position of the automatic brake is not used. Minimum reduction position. The position is located on the right of the release of the position whether the brake valve handle reaches the first raised portion of the quadrant. When the brake valve handle moves to the position of minimum service application is obtained, which results in 4 to 6 pound brake pipe reduction. The service position, the sector for the brake valve handle is right of the minimum reduction position, moving the handle to the left or the right, and the sector increase the degree of the brake application at the extremely right of the sector. The full service brake application is obtained. The suppression position. The position located for the handle against the second raised position quadrant to the right of the release. This position provides the full service braking application in addition with the locomotives equipped with the overspeed control, safety control, penalty brakes when these applications will be suppressed. The handle off position. The position located on the quadrant notch to the right of the suppression position. Handle in this position. The handle is removable in this position. The handle off position. It must be placed in the position removed on the trailing unit of the multi-unit, which consists of the locomotives being towed in dead train. Emergency position. The position located in the extreme right of the brake valve quadrant is used making the brake valve emergency brake application. The emergency application is received. The automatic brake valve handle must be moved to the emergency position left in the position with the equalizing reserve indicating the zero pressure to the automatic brake valve handle. It must be moved to the release valve position, recharge of the brake pipe, and release the brakes. No, if equipped with the slip reduction of the penalty application, the penalty control function, service brake application, about 5 seconds after the warning whistle, the leave automatic brake valve handle the release position during the initial reduction at approximately 9 pounds for approximately 20 seconds. At the starting the section. Second reduction indicate further drop in equalizing reserve pressure. Move the automatic brake valve handle to the suppression position. Should it leave the position, an applicable gauge in hand should not less than 125 pounds of pressure. Then move the automatic brake valve handle to the release position. The independent brake valve handle. Independent brake valve handle applies to the release of the brake of the locomotive consisting of the release of the brake of the locomotive unit alone with automatic emergency application. Independent brake valve with the two-position release of the full application zone between the brake valve and the self-lapping type. Air equipment. Air equipment. The automatic maintains the brake cylinder pressure. The automatic application pressure reaches the value corresponding to handle position. Independent brake application released at the movement of the handle toward the release position. The automatic service of the emergency application released with the locomotive compressing the independent brake valve handle in the release position. Pilot cutoff valve. Pilot cutout cock. Brake valve cutout. The cock is known as a double heading cock located in the automatic brake valve push and his handle turned the position type of the service of the out position locomotive operated in the trail. The multiple unit 2A valve equivalent of the rotary valve. There's 2 to 3 positions of valve located in the brake stand and enables the locomotive equipped to 26 locomotive brakes operated in multiple locomotives. I guess the 26L stands for the locomotive. The locomotive brakes similar other than the types of braking equipment, pushing handle to turn into the change of the position. One of this note that on some of the railroads, the device replaced by the two-position cutout cock is in the same location. The three-position multiple unit 2A valve read the position of the lead, dead, or the trail 6, 12, 24, 12, 26. 26. Lead and dead position is used the locomotive when units operating singly. When it is the lead unit, the multiple unit consists of the position used when locomotive is hauled to dead end. Figure 5, the air brake controls. You see the air brake with the number 1, 2, 1, multiple air units, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. independent brake valve, bell valve, regulating valve, brake valve, cutout, sander valve, lead axle, valve, automatic brake valve, horn valve. 2. The trail, continuing the MU2A valve, the trail 6 and 26 position used in the trail lead locomotive having the 6SL and the 26L brake equipments. The train 24-point position is used to trail the lead locomotive having the 24RL brake equipment. Type 26 control valve, the valve located in the air brake compartment actuated to change the pressure of the brake pipe as it operates, applies to release the locomotive brakes, and the release the cap of the control valve can be mounted in 2 ways. The GRA can over the word of release to the position of the ground. I don't know what the GRA is. I was going to guess. With the letters GRA over the word release, the position provides the gradual release of the automatic brakes. So it's graduated release of the automatic brakes over the word release. The direct is the direct release of automotive release. Within the release, put the position provided directly in the release of the automatic brakes for the race. Duplex air gauges. The following air gauges are located in the gauge panel in the front of the engine. Main reserve, equalizing reserve. Red hand indicates the main reserve pressure. The white hand indicates the equalizing reserve pressure of the brake cylinder. Brake pipe. The red hand indicates the locomotive brake cylinder pressure, which the white hand indicates the brake pipe pressure. The application of suppression, if installed, red hand indicates overspeed safety control penalty. Application of white hand indicates suppression is in the feature used to cut out cocks, especially in inspection maintenance periods of the following manual operated the devices were used. The main reserve cutout cock located on the right of the side of the locomotive near the main reserve. 2. The main reserve drain cocks, the locomotive on each of the reserve, usually use a part of the automatic air filter drain cocks, normally located in the rear of the fuel tank filter on auxiliary air filter at the front of the fuel tank. Control air cutout cock location, air brake compartment with the reducing valve. The control air reverse drain cock located in the air braking compartment on the rear wall. The braking cylinder cutout cocks located on the right of beneath the locomotive platform, level 1 of each of the trucks. A pressing air compressor cutout governor cutout cock located on the beside of the lube oil cooler and the engine cooler on the right side of the locomotive. The bell horn window wiper cutout cock located in our air brake compartment. Sander cutout cocks located behind the door and above the top step of the right side of the locomotive, both ends. Cutout cocks at each end of the locomotive, the brake pipe of the angle cocks and the cutout cocks behind the end of the frame of the snowplow. The main reserve equalizing actuation brake cylinder equalizing independent application and release. The forward sand is if used pneumatic multi-unit sanding to the right side, reverse sand and multi-unit to the left side. Here you see a locomotive at the end controls and multiple unit controls the brake pipe, the main reserve equalization actuator, and the intake cylinder equalizer. The safety control cutout cock located in the air brake cutout. The safety control feature when we're closed, and see our air piping diagram inclusion with specific location. Overspeed cutout cock if used located air brake control cutout cock. The overspeed control feature where closed. 13. Dead engine cock located in the air brake compartment. The adjusting valves, air regulating valve feed, valve C figure 5. Air brake controls. Air regulating valve, the feed valve. The air regulating valve located in the control stand automatically maintains a predetermined air pressure brake system. Clockwise movement of the adjacent handling increased pressure setting. Counterclockwise, the movement decreases the pressure seating, adjusting the conform of the railroad regulations. Controlling the air reducing valve. The valve maintains predetermined normal air pressure. The air pressure supply for the operation of the reverser braking switch. Pneumatic contractors clockwise adjusting for the adjusting screw increases the pressure. Normal control air pressure in 70 pounds. Automatic alarm safeguards the circuit breakers. Operated in a toggle switch to open the circuit manually. Overhead the breaker circuit causes the breaker to open the circuit automatically with the toggle moves into the center position. Indicate the braking has tripped. The breaker is rested by moving off the breaker is reset, moving to off, then on for allowing the few minutes for the thermal element in the braking to cool. The breaker should be reclosed to there is no visible reason for automatic opening of the circuit. If the trips are reclosing, it should be left open unless instructed otherwise. Colored lights and bells during the normal locomotive operation. The bell and all colored lights are off. When the locomotive consists of more than one unit, the colored lights lamps will light on affected unit only. Bells, whistles, and sound of all units. The trouble occurs with two or more units at the same time, each which cause the alarm bell to ring. The EC engine control switch of all the affected units to start the position, attempting to restart any unit with the throttle handle and the lead unit beyond the idle position. Possible to start any of the unit while the alarm bell is ringing. Low oil, low water, lights yellow. The yellow engine control while the lights are either the engine loop is supply the cooling water. The pressure is low. Yeah, mama. The low water lights, the yellow light of the engine control panel will light with either the engine lube or the supply of the cooling water as the pressure is low. If the engine lubricating oil pressure drops between 7 to 12 psi, idle speed between 47 to 50 psi at full speed, the engine shuts down. The engine shuts down. The yellow low oil indicator lamp lights up. The engine shuts down. The alarm bell will sound as long as the engine control switch, the EC switch, is in the run position. A yellow water indicating lamp will also come on with the water pressure supply is low. If the engine shuts down, move the engine control switch to the start silence of the alarm bells. Check the lubrication on to supply the end of the dipstick. Check for the broken, cracked, or oil lines. Also check the water supply for the storage tank and check for the water piping leaks. To restart the diesel after the fault of the corrected, depress the shutdown plunger for the engine governor until it clicks again. The engine governor is equipped for the two shutdown plungers, one for the low oil, one for the low water. Be sure both plungers are reset. Depress the engine start button after the engine is running. Recheck the signs of distress. If the condition is normal, put the locomotive on the line. Recheck the signs for the distress engine file. If the engine fails to start due to low oil pressure, reset the before tripping. Do not repeat cranking. Caution: repeated cranking of the engine without starting will not only discharge the battery but can damage the engine, and if the fault is in lack of the lube oil in the first of the attempt fails to restart the engine, cease cranking, proceeds with the directed railroad rules. If the locomotive units are being operated in multiple, the engine of the affected unit will only shut down. Crankcase the overpressure switch. This is the indicating light. This is the reset button. A crankcase overpressure switch is mounted on the left side of the engine near the generator. The switch will shut down the engine of the case that the serious engine fault occurs. When the switch trips, the engine shuts down automatically. The alarm bell rings, indicating the light comes on in the operator cabs. The housing of the switch and the such for the fault occurs, taking the locomotive offline and leaving the engine shut down. Proceeding the directed railroad rules before the engine is restarted. Cause of the shutdown must be determined. The fault corrected. The hot engine light, the hot engine water temperature becomes excessive. The alarm bell, one of the hot engine indicating the lamp or the red lights. Note one of the sum of the locomotive modules and engine speed will return to the idle position during the hot engine alarm. After first opportunity to investigate for the causes, cooling water temperature returns to normal. Alarm bell will stop ringing and turn the engine control switch, the EC engine control switch, to start while not starting the ringing for the alarm bell to the turn off the hot engine light. If the cooling water temperature does not return to the normal, if responsible length of time, shut down the engine. Automatic alarms and safeguards. No battery charge blue. If the engine were running and the engine control switch 8 is in the run position, the battery charging equipment fails, then no battery charge lamp blue will light. The alarm bell will sound. The light will also come on the engine and is not running. The battery which switch is closed under the condition of the faulting due to necessary exists. Alternator overload relay. A surge relay is provided by the detected power faults caused by the alternator overloading and going into the ground. The fault detection all prevents the excessive equipment damage caused by the inoperative ground relay, indicating the light of the engine controls panel, which is the light which is such a fault has occurred. The blower failure. If any of them equipped with the blower operating should it fail, the blower fail light of the engine control panel will come on. The engine speed returns to the idle power is removed. The caution: no effort should be made in the power of the locomotive unit of the equipment power. Blower, furniture, ventilation, or air, otherwise serious equipment may be damaged and could result. After the fault is corrected, normal locomotive operation is restored automatically. Automatic alarms and safeguards. Ground relay figure 3. Ground relay operation. Grounds contact occurs in main power circuits of the ground relay operates the reduced engine speed automatically. The idle to idle removes the power from the traction motor. Sounds of the alarm bell indicating the light of the ground relay tripped on the engine control panel will light indicate that the fault has occurred. And grounding occurs. The control switch circuits of the ground relay may be operating through the engine cranking cycle. Report this condition to reset the ground relay. Take the engine off the line. Push the ground relay set button on the engine control panel. Advance the throttle handle. The ground relay stays in continuing normal operation. On the note that the on locomotive is equipped with a train line ground relay. Reset the trip relay is indicated warning light. The wait 15 seconds before the attempting to reset the relay. Make a visual observation of the locomotive. I did. Make a visual observation of the locomotive consists of the unusual condition observed with the preset reset button light limit reset attempts to the two directed by the railroad rules. The same reset button and the press, the same reset and procedure applies to the overload relay is tripped. Automatic alarm safeguards in the ground immediately operates the second time. The affected units must not be operated. The unit must either be shut down necessary for the engine or be left running towards the EC switch and start. Takes the unit offline. When the ground relay cut off, the switch is open and the unit must be not operated. The pneumatic control switch is operated from the air brake system. During a safety control penalty and emergency air braking application, the switch opens. The engine speed is reduced to the idle power is removed. The pneumatic control switch is open. Open light is engine position will light. To reset the pneumatic control switch, automatically move the throttle handle to idle. Note that the pneumatic control switch at trip to the dynamic brake will tripped while in the dynamic braking. The selector handle must be returned to the off to reset the circuit. Move of the automatic brakes valve handle, the suppression and depression, safety control of the foot pedal. When the application builds to the normal pressure, the pneumatic control switch will reclose. Move the automatic brake valve to the handle, release. The wheel slip. Any wheels during the locomotive operation normally will the following occur: the reduction of the excitation immediately standing on the curves of the locomotive that was slipping. The continuing of slipping more than 2 or 3 seconds, the wheel slip lamp on the control stand lights. Excitation continues at the reduced state. When the wheel is corrected with the wheel speed control, excitation will return to the normal standing tapers. If the wheel is observed and the wheel slip light and does not come on, the report shall be made. A wheel slip detection equipment may be require maintenance. Engine overspeed, figure 8. In the event of the engine overspeed of 1160 RPMs, the engine should shut down automatically. After the overspeed shutdown of the engine, move the engine control switch to start. Reset the overspeed mechanism. Push the knob. Engine overspeed governor located at the left of the engine under the engine control governor. Proceed to the start of the engine described under the starting engine overspeeds. Again, and do not restart the engine if troubled two or more units at the same time, which causes the alarm bell to ring. The engine control switch on the all affected units to the start position before the attempting to restart any of the unit. Will throttle handle the unit on the lead unit be on idle, and possible starting any unit while the alarm bell is ringing. And during freezing weather, protect the engine cooling system according to the railroad instructions. This is an engine overhaul speed reset for the governor. Figure 8. Footbell installed and located on the operator position. The pedal must be depressed at all times during the locomotive operation. The operator's foot is removed. The pedal for more than 5 seconds. The brakes will say apply to the safe service rate. Further description of the safety control. Emergency standing. Emergency standing automatically applied for the forward reserve direction during all emergency brake applications. Sufficient time to stop the train. Multiple unit operation. Emergency standing is applied to all units regardless of whether they are equipped with pneumatic or electro-pneumatic standing equipment. Locomotive overspeed. The locomotive equipped with the overspeed protection exceeds the maximum permissible speed. Overspeed application initiated. The overspeed whistle blows, and if and above the 5 seconds general planning braking application initiated, the train speed has been reduced sufficiently to see air brake regulations for the proper position. Engine air filter light. The engine air filter light of the engine control will come on, such as the engine paper filters being unplunged or plugged or dirty. When the air faulty occurs, the traction motor power will be removed. The engine speed will return to idle. Press the fuel pump reset and reset the paper filter relay. Early slage of the air filter cleanliness can be observed. An indicator mounted on the right side of the locomotive near the radiator. See when the engine is running at full speed, the red hand inside the indicator becomes visible. The air filter is starting to get dirty. When the red band locks in place at the top, it is indicating that the air filter cleanliness has reached the condemning limit. The proceeding is directed of the railroad rules. Pressure and air temperature gauges control air that are used like air compressor air brake compartments. Normal air pressure is 70 psi. A manifold air pressure gauge located above the engine control operation cab. See the figure. Normal reading full engine speed. Full load is 40-20 U23 to U28, 20 to 28 psi. U30 to U36, 26 to 32 psi. The above valves are nominal due to the effect of verifying conditions. The fuel pressure located on the engine control of the operator's cab. The normal fuel pressure idle is 35 psi. Full load is 20 to 30 psi. And the U23 to U28 locomotives are at 20 psi idle and full load at US 30 and 30 on US 30 and US 36 locomotives. Lube oil pressure gauge. The locomotive in the engine control panel. The operated cab is normal lube pressure. The idle the 10 to 25 psi. Full load 75 to 95 psi. The water temperature gauge located on the right side of the water storage cage. Normally operating temperature 170 to 180 degrees. Other gauges ensuring lubricating all dipsticks located on the side of the engine near the lube oil fill. The stick is marked high to low, proper level of the engine indicating the high to low. Here is a, figure 10 water storage detail pump, the vent valve, the vent handle, how the pressure cap. You have your valve and your valve handle and your pressure cap. And then 4, you have the water storage tank. 5, the temperature gauge. 6, the water level, site level. And 7, fuel lift handle, fill valve handle. And 8, water fill pipe. 2 gauges and measuring devices. Fuel oil sight glasses mounted on both sides of the main fuel tank indicate the level of the fuel tank's cooling water level inside of the mounted outside of the cooling water storage tank indicates the level of the cooling water. Marks on the near side of the glass indicating the proper level of different conditions of the system. When filling the system, the adding water treatment of the compound proceeds according to the instruction mounted on the water storage tanks inside of the fill cap door to the panel above. Warning to avoid the personal harm from the water burns near. Remove the water fill cap when the water level is above the fold at the idle mark. Compressor lube oil. The compressor oil lube oil. Gardner Denver compression. A gauge mounted on the compressor frame that is indicated an oil level gauge is marked at the add or lower red scale, run green scale, excessive upper low red scale. Westinghouse compressor maintained by the run level on an oil level indicator. The traction L alternator gearbox dipstick marked on the empty to add to full indicates the old level. The proper level is between add and full. The engine is stopped. Fan gear unit only on the level, maintaining oil net level near the slip over the fill. The governor oil level slight glass located on the left side of the engine of the traction gear. Oil level may be visible between the marks on the sights of the glass of the engine is running. Caution to prevent serious equipment damage. Never start an engine until the engine governor has been properly serviced with lube oil. This is an air compressor oil filter with the oil level gauge and interlocking cooling drain cock. Traction gear unit. Oil filler dill skip. Oil drain filler pipe and dipstick. Here you see a fan gear with a unit of oil filler and an oil drain. Basically lubrication orders: low oil shutdown plunger, low oil shutdown plunger, low oil shutdown plunger, low water oil shutdown plunger. Oil level sight glass. The engine governor and lubrication: low oil and low water results. To follow the checks, inspection should be made in accordance with the railroad rules. Before boarding a locomotive, inspect all the broken. Cut there. Got about